Okay, so let's talk about input validation loops. So basically, the computer or the program cannot tell if the user entered information is good data or bad data. Whatever information that you give, the program will execute by taking that information into consideration. So let's say you are calculating the gross pay of the user. So you're asking the user to enter the number of hours. The user can enter 400 hours. And the user can enter, instead of hourly pay rate, if it is $20, let's say someone has entered $200, for example, by mistake. So the program will not check if that is in the range or if that is even right, but it will just take those numbers and calculate the gross pay, which is too much, which has a too much value difference when it's like, supposed to be with what it's supposed to be. So such type of like we can always introduce a loop which will check if the data is correct or not. Such type of loop is called as an input validation loop. So from the name itself, you are basically validating the input that is being entered by the user. So you will be using the concept of garbage in, garbage out. So if the program will be using, so basically if the user has entered wrong data, that is bad data or garbage data, the program will take that garbage data and will produce garbage results. So that is the concept of garbage in, garbage out. So as a programmer, it is our responsibility to design a program which never accepts wrong data. So let's say the user has entered the total number of hours as 400. So the program should be smart enough to tell the user that the maximum time, or the maximum time the user can work is up till 40. So if it is over 40, then it is considered as a overtime pay and it has its own calculations and its hourly pay rate. But in this case, let's just assume that the maximum a person can work is 40 hours per week. So if the user has entered 400, then the program should be smart enough to let him know that there has been a mistake, or please enter the information, or please check the information, or you cannot work more than 40 hours. There should be something which will prompt or which will halt the execution of the program instead of taking that data and then giving a garbage gross pay. So let's see the example here. So you have the same. The hours is equal to int input, enter the number of hours this week, pay rate, gross pay, print. So the user has entered 400, hourly pay rate as 20. So instead of getting 800, the user is now getting $8,000 for that week. So this is an example of the usage of input validation loops. So inspecting input before it is processed by the program. If the input is valid, then execute the program. If the input is invalid, prompt the user to enter the correct data again. So a good input validation loop is used by using a while loop. So because while is a pre-test loop, right? So if the condition itself is false, it will keep repeating. Like if the condition itself is true, it will keep repeating until the condition is set to false, right? So we'll see the examples in the lab. So this is like a good usage is by using the while loop. If the input is bad, display the error message and receive another set of data. If the input is good, continue the process to get the input. So if you are changing this code, it will be while hours, like the first statement is hours is equal to int input, while hours is greater than or equal to 40, colon, enter, print, you have entered the wrong information. Next line should be, you should be getting the data from the user again. So hours is equal to int input, enter the number of hours entered this week, because we do not want that to be an infinite loop as well. So that is the reason you are using whatever the data that has been entered by the user to check if hours is greater than 40. If it is greater than 40, then as that condition is true, it will execute over and over again. So basically, from the example that I've mentioned also, first you are getting the data, getting the input, then checking the input. So you will have the input validation loop somewhere between checking the data and then getting the data. So getting the data, if it is checking the data, if it is bad, display the error message, get the input again. If it is good, then this will make this condition false, like the input validation loop condition false, and then you are moving to the actual program. Okay, so that is input validation loops. In the next video, we'll be talking about nested loops. That is nothing but a loop inside a loop. We'll see the structure and format of a nested loop.